All right, welcome everybody to Bard's Bag. We have a Commander deck tech for you today. This is my take on the Necrobloom from Modern Horizons 3. I got Josh with me here. He's a good bud of mine. We play together very frequently. He's seen this deck quite a few times, so he's familiar with its activities. Um, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're just going to talk about the Commander itself, the Necrobloom. It is a 2/7 legendary creature plant. It's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token instead. Also, land cards in your graveyard have Dredge 2. So a few things that I really liked about this guy when I first saw him is at a 2/7, he's got a fat butt. And that's always great because he's going to withstand a lot of damage through blocking. Any sort of direct damage spells, he's not going to be an easy target for. Um, but with only 2 power, it's kind of it might create kind of some unsuspecting opponents. There's definitely some other um, more powerful commanders that'll get targeted before this one will. It kind of flies under the radar to people who haven't seen him yet. So that's always kind of fun to be left alone to just kind of do your own thing. Um, so let's talk about Dredge for a second. If you don't know already, Dredge is anytime that you would draw a card. It doesn't matter if it's your draw step, if there's an effect that's causing you to draw. You can instead choose to mill 2 cards and pull whatever that land is back to your hand. Um, that's super fun, and it's going to be the main kind of engine that I run off of in this. So we've got plant token generation in the early game. Those are going to be great for sack fodder, chump blocking, all of that stuff. It's super effective. And then zombies at 7 differently named lands. So let's go ahead and start talking about my land base. Um, so when I first built this deck, I actually tried to fill it with a bunch of non-basics because short thought, oh, I just need all, as many different non-basics as possible to achieve that 7 different named land requirement for that second ability. But very soon after, I realized that this requirement is actually satisfied by the snow-covered basics as well. So kind of want to highlight that first. I have a snow covered of each, just one. We don't really need to fill the deck with, an even mix of those basics, because there's going to be plenty of fetching involved here. So one snow covered forest, one for plains, one for swamps, and then don't sleep on wastes. That's just another differently named land. You'll see I threw a regular waste in here too. Those are basics that we can fetch for with a lot of the cards in this deck, and it's going to help us get to those 2/2 zombies way sooner than you would expect. Um, Other than that, we've got plenty of ways to fetch and sack. We do want those lands in the graveyard because then we can just use that over and over and over again. When you're using a sack land, you're getting 2 landfall triggers during that one land drop. So wanted to do that as many times as possible with things like escape tunnel, deceptive landscape. What else we got in here? There's definitely a myriad landscape. Um, what else we
Echoes
got?
the Verge.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got windswept heath. You got your terramorphic, your evolving wilds, promising vein even. You can probably find slightly better sack lands than what I have in here, but this just kind of a little bit of these were intentional. Some of these just kind of came from bulk, and it works. It works just fine. Um, Moving on to the enchantments and the artifacts. So this one's pretty fun because we're getting so much landfall. There's no need to really run, a slew of rocks. It's really not necessary here. We've got your basics with Arcane Sig, Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble to again get an extra landfall trigger on whatever turn you decide to sack that. Um, we got the booties, kind of have to. Head Shredder from Duskmorn. I actually haven't gotten to cast this one yet, but this is insane synergy that I can't wait to see in action. Because it's just going to be so much landfall. Moving on to another one that's really just going to help out a lot in this deck. We won't even need to use that dredge ability at a certain point because we have a few different cards that will allow us to play lands from our graveyards, and this is one of them. It's also repeatable graveyard recursion, which is insanely helpful in a deck that we're going to be milling as much as we are. Moving on to the enchantments, really just more synergy. We've got Divine Visitation, so essentially, whether this comes out in the early game or the late game, your plants or zombies are then turning into angels. Um,
Right.
so I don't think it gets much better than that.
This is one of the cards you recently added to the deck, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
the game that I was able to cast this spell in, I was honestly kind of I was flopping a bit, but I had this
Right.
card out, and I was still the threat on the board just because of
Exactly.
how many tokens this deck will create. So
Right. It's insane.
at $8, and I'm pretty sure these prices on Moxfield are inflated.
Yeah.
It worth it, very worth it.
100%. 100%.
Um, Druid class, kind of a landfall staple. Don't really need to say too much more there. Insidious Roots. This card is nuts in this deck because all of those tokens, all of those plant tokens, everything. The plant tokens are more what I highlight with this because they're not as useful. So you don't feel as bad tapping those down to get ahead. Something like a zombie might be a decent, more of a decent chump blocker, and then especially with Divine Visitation out, I'm not going to be enthusiastic about tapping a 4/4 Angel for mana. But if I have, a shit ton of them, that's, whatever, it's there. And then we're also putting +1/+1 counters on not just our plants, but Necrobloom is a plant himself, herself, itself. It'll get buffed every time you pull a creature card from the graveyard. Omen Path Journey, again, I highly suggest this card. You can get it out turn 3, turn 4, and then that is at least one additional landfall guaranteed for the next 5 turns. And you can fix it in whatever way you want. One of my favorite things to do uh, with Omen Path on Arena is to specifically go get all of my sack lands. Um, if I have something like Spelunking out, um, then that combo's there, and because it comes in untapped, I can go ahead and sack it. The sacked land or the fetch land that I get is also untapped. So again, lots of synergy with our enchantments, and then Tribute to the World Tree probably belongs in every deck that has green in it.
Debatable, yeah,
Like
for sure.
I love this card.
So
It's been
good.
a favorite since I started playing again.
It's great.
Um, Moving on to instants and sorceries. Josh, how many, just off rip, how many ramp spells do you think are in this deck?
Dear God. Off rip, I'm gonna say 10.
It's close. There's 13. It's
Ooh,
13 ramp
shit.
spells. Try to locate these real quick. We've got Restoration, Harrow, Rampant Growth, um, good old Cultivate. It's been there for me my whole life. Journey of Discovery. This one's fun if you can afford the Entwine. Kodama's Reach, Map the Frontier. What else we got? Scout the Wilderness. It's another fun one. If you've got Divine Visitation on the field, you can pay the kicker. It's just 2 additional mana, and you'll get 2/4/4 White Angels.
Nasty.
Kinda dumb. Farseek, cheap ramp. Nature's Lore, another kind of green staple. Nothing super crazy there. Um, Attempt with Discovery. If they've played against Necrobloom before, if your opponents have seen it before, you're not getting more than the land that you get. No,
Right.
I
Unless
think
they're behind.
I think I got away with it once, but I think our pod in general just stuffs this thing every single time. We're like,
Right.
absolutely not.
But yeah, I mean, if it hits the board, there's no way we can give you more creatures, more lands. It just doesn't make any sense.
No,
Now, the first time someone says, you know what, I need that land, everybody else around the table is going to do it.
sometimes
Dude.
I've seen Trevor hold strong, man. Um, and then this the last one on my ramp list is it's kind I guess it's not really ramp now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, you could make the argument, but it is kind of one of the few game winners. Escape Shift. A little bit pricey for this card, but it is a fun time when it gets to pop. Um, I like to cast it as soon as I get 7 lands, because then I'm not sacrificing my zombie requirement. So if I've got it in hand and I've got 7 lands, I'm gonna try to use the 3 for something and then use the remaining 4 for Scape Shift. Go get all new lands, 7 land triggers at least. Um, and yeah, it's a great fucking time. I've played your landfall decks and plenty of your landfall decks. You're very masterful at it. Is there any ramp spell that you kind of are like, why didn't he put this in there?
The only one I would actually recommend specifically for this deck, and only because you don't really care about, I mean, most landfall decks don't care about it, lands going to the graveyard, is Rolling Regrowth.
Mm,
That's a pretty good one. I mean,
yep.
you can probably take out, I don't know, I, I don't know. I like
Well,
Map
well,
of Frontier.
I mean, honestly, we'll get to what we could take out in
Right.
a little bit, but for the viewers that have already spotted the 2 stinkers, comment the timestamp that you noticed it below. Um, we'll go ahead and move on to the removal that I have going on in this deck. So a lot of these are pretty unforgiving. Couple of board wipes. Start with Merciless Eviction. Um, cool thing is, if you're playing somebody with artifacts, this is just a straight up, one-sided board wipe. You have options here. This is very versatile, but it's probably gonna hurt you a little bit. Um, Probably not the best case scenario in this deck. Best use case would be playing against somebody's artifact deck. Um, like your what's her name that you played last night?
My artifact deck?
Yeah.
Oh, I have Sophie, where I make a bunch of clues.
Oh yeah,
That can be nasty.
that would mess up the doggos for sure.
It also messes up my enchantment deck, uh,
Mm.
Bellow.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a
I'm
pretty nasty one there.
gonna put that in the back of my mind.
And then Dylan's got a Planeswalker deck as well.
Mm.
So it's pretty good
Oh, I didn't
in
even see that
pods.
last line.
Yeah, it's pretty good in all the pods.
Good stuff. Um, Next removal is one of my favorite ones. Oh wait, I always get this mixed up. It's not. I don't think I actually have this card. There's a card in my arena deck. Death Sprout. I don't have that one. So
Damn.
Death Sprout, I need to add to this because it is targeted removal with ramp on the other end of it. So
Ooh.
it's destroy target creature and then search your library for a basic land. Not listed here, but incredibly useful. And I always mix it up, these 2 cards, because it's just I don't really have a good excuse. I could try to say that the art is similar. It's not. Maybe the colors are just kind of getting my wires crossed, and the fact that they both start with a D. Um, but Dune Blast is super fun because you can target Necrobloom and then wipe the rest of the board. Or if you have one of the other amazing creatures that we'll get to in this deck, I could see targeting Elish Norn. I could see targeting Ancient Green Warden. Especially if you have Conduit of Worlds out, you can just let whatever you want go to the graveyard, pull it back next turn. So Dune Blast, super fun. Ye Old Faithful Farewell. Fucking hell. Oh, Miss DoorDash. Pause. Ugh. I can't wait to edit in like dumb like intermission type shit.
Right.
Um, like do an unsponsored ad for DoorDash and just see what happens. Um, it's actually a Wingstop ad because I ordered the app through Wingstop. They
Fuck
just
yeah, dude.
contracted out to DoorDash. We were talking about removal. So I think I yeah mentioned farewell.
Yep.
Everybody knows what that card does. It is, however, the Fallout borderless art for it, so pretty stoked about that.
That was dope.
All right, now we're gonna talk about the stinkers. Um, it started with Ravages of War, and it was because I wanted the Fallout art. And then I
Yes.
needed a deck to put it in, and I figured this was the one that was least harmful to me.
To you.
Um, Absolutely detrimental to the rest of the table, but for me, Trevor's got a landfall deck that has land recursion in it too. So
Yeah.
these cards are getting less scary. And also, I just want to take a quick moment. The reason why I can sleep at night with these the other stinker is Armageddon. Yeah, that's in there because I found out that it's the exact same cost card. It's three generics in a planes and the same ability. It's just different names, which I didn't know. I mean, I'm sure it does happen more often than I'm aware, but it just seems weird. So I was like, I'll just have two of the same card in the deck, just different names. It just kind of dumb shit that I was up to. Um, but just to kind of continue on my little rant there, the kind of debauchery that I've seen at the table in my last year of playing regularly again, I think these are fine. That's my hot take. I think they're
Well, I
fine.
mean, they can be countered. I mean,
Yeah.
there's ways around them, right? Making your stuff hexproof or indestructible, not hexproof, but indestructible.
Yeah, dude, if you ulted Nissa, you're
Yeah.
good. This card means
I
nothing to
did.
you. Just ult Nissa and you're fine. Um but objectively these are the two cards that could certainly be removed from this deck and put in Roiling Regrowth and shit put in Death Sprout. That would be my two swaps for the whole advice of don't fucking follow this list to the T. Um because there's no reason to add those cards. It's just it was a scratch I wanted to itch.
Right.
And I think I've only casted Ravages of War once. Uh they definitely I've had them in hand plenty, but it very few and far between opportunities where I've actually felt like casting them.
Right. I mean, another way to look at it is it's the win cons of the deck. You get your board state to a point where you can cast, lands out of your graveyard
Hmm.
and you wipe the board. Necrobloom's already out. You already have an army.
Hmm.
You're set. You
I'm
cast
fine.
Armageddon and you're good.
And then what you can do is a few turns later, you just fucking toss out Eerie Ultimatum when you get back up to what is that?
Like,
Fucking 7 lands. Um,
will be fast.
yeah, just you got fucking what is it, Azusa or Dryad that does the 2 lands return?
Azusa.
Yeah, so well, it's both of them. So technically, if you've got both of them out, you can play 3 lands return. You got Ancient Green Warden out.
You can
Oh,
play 4 lands per turn.
oh. And then you've got whatchamacallit. Yeah, I'm justifying the shit out of these editions now. You've got what's the other one that we already talked about? Damn it.
Permanent
Um,
worlds.
Not that. Well, yes, but no. The one that drops a land at the end of every turn. It's an
Oh,
enchantment.
yeah, it's an enchantment. The journey.
Omen Path Journey. Yeah, you've
There
got
you go.
Omen Path Journey out. Yeah, you're back up to the 7 lands you need for Eerie Ultimatum in like 1.5 turns.
Yeah, that was solid.
Um, you got Lotus Cobra out. You're already there. You're done. So there are ways. There is an Exodia that 110% welcomes Armageddon and Ravages of War.
Right.
And as Josh said, if they're viewed as the win con, you just got to make sure that you are going to win when you cast them. The game has to end soon.
Exactly.
Um, and then I threw in, as far as the other removal, I threw in Abzan Charm because I had one and seems pretty useful and versatile. You know, if you're just holding on to it, there's nothing really you want to remove. You know, toss out Abzam Charm, buff up a couple of your creatures, whatever.
I like the charms. I mean, I think they're all versatile. They have three on each of them, so I think it's good at.
I don't use them that often, but I've witnessed you guys using them, and that's made me kind of take more peeks at them.
Right.
So that was the spirit of that edition.
Yeah, they're solid.
Um, as far as other spells that we've got, next section that I kind of highlighted was Graveyard Recursion. So I already mentioned Eerie Ultimatum. This is one of my favorite cards in a deck like this. You know, you can get almost all of your lands back that you've been sacking. Um, any creatures that went there, God forbid Scooty's in there when you pull back, 12 lands. It's a lot of math.
Dude.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with this card. One of my favorites. On Burial Rites, this is two different graveyard recursion spells all packed into one. Um, Not much more to say about that. And then we have another chance. Um, so you do have to mill 2 cards, but this is also kind of a card that I like to have in hand in my opening hand. Just because, all right, I'm not really getting too much in the form of creatures, but I know that if I get them into the graveyard, there's a million different ways in this deck to get them back. So I don't mind paying that mill 2 cost, and then if I do pay it, there's 2 creatures in there. Boom, we got the value out of it for sure.
Usually right.
Sometimes it can be a Hail Mary, but if we're not milling creatures, chances are we're milling one of those 39 lands, which we can then get back.
And it's in.
Graveyard. Graveyard is just another um, extension of your hand, which I
There
very
you
much
go.
appreciate. And then I threw Heroic Intervention in here. You got to protect your shit, dude. I've been wiped one too many times. I'm sure
Especially
there's.
if you're about to cast fucking Armageddon.
Sheesh.
Dirty.
Dude, that just hit me.
Oh God.
Yeah, I've now fully justified Armageddon and Ravages of War. We're all good.
We got here.
Moving on to the creature section. So I'm gonna just kind of speed through the landfall staples first. These are the cards that it makes me not want to play a landfall because you just see them so frequently, but you can't not include them.
There's too good. They're absolutely too good.
Ancient Green Warden, Heater. Any landfall trigger is going to trigger twice. If you've got, graveyard recur, if you're sending lands to your grave like we are, this is doubly useful. Um, and then Reach. This is I think the only deck with green that I didn't put Poison Dart Frog in.
Proud of you.
So you're right. Um, because there's just no need for dorks in this deck.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So Ancient Green Warden, super useful. It's a 5/7, you know, big ass, but also like an ass beater. Um, so you have to put it in every landfall deck. Um, what else we got? Rampaging Baloths. Yep. Another one. It's just a 6/6 with trample. Gives you 4/4 beasts. It's just beat ass all game. Lotus Cobra. At first, I didn't actually put him in here.
Really?
Yeah, I was an idiot. There was no reason not to include him. But I guess my thought was like, oh, the lands disappear. What's that gonna? He's not actually getting me lands. He's just getting
Oh
me
yeah.
mana.
Yeah, I can
But
do that.
it still helps. It's
It
because
does.
again with landfall triggers, with how many times we're sacking lands, you can really get nutty and cast some pretty big stuff, or just cast plenty of stuff on your turn with Lotus Cobra. Um,
Absolutely.
Especially Lotus Cobra and Ancient Green Warden, because then you're getting 2 extra lands every time that you drop one, at least for that turn.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So yeah, really got to put that one in there. And then this is the most played card in our pod, Avenger of Zendikar.
It's a goodie.
You can't not do it, and again, especially because that landfall ability, you're getting a +1/+1 counter on not just the plant tokens that Avenger of Zendikar created, but any plant tokens that Necrobloom created and Necrobloom itself. Huge
Right.
value with A of Z.
Yeah, you hate to see this hit the board.
Yes, sir. Except we all cheer whenever it happens. We're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, we all get it. Azusa Lost but Seeking. I think this card should be banned.
It's
Um,
dirty.
it is dirty. Um, 2 additional lands on each of your turns is pretty absurd. And that's not the only additional lands that this deck is capable of playing.
Dude,
Um,
when I first started playing Magic, Commander specifically, Azusa was a very hot commander for mono green players. It was also one of the, arguably, probably the best mono green commander at the time.
it kind of
And it,
makes sense.
oh my gosh.
And now,
It,
and
it-
I haven't even seen anybody run her as a command. It just hit me when you said that. I was like, she's legendary?
yeah, it got old quick, man. Especially at Atlantis when we were playing. People were, oh my gosh.
Was it so like did you see a lot of the same stuff? Because when I'm looking at it, it's like, well, I mean, you can do a lot with that, right? Like,
Right.
you can go big stompy, you can go wide.
It was
Um,
mainly back in the day, it was more big stompy. You were able to get out land so quick and big creatures so fast that it there was just not much you could do against it. It
mm,
was, unless you were playing mono blue, which everyone likes to do.
or if you have an Armageddon in your
Yeah,
deck. um, yeah, I learned something new every day. I never paid attention to the fact that she was legendary.
she's dirty.
And then the next one, Dryad of Elysian Grove, fixes all your lands, and that's 1 more land per turn. So let's try to keep up with this if we can. So Ancient Green Warden's 1,
Mhm.
Azusa is 2 more, so we're up to 4 lands on your turn. 5 lands with Dryad, and we'll remember we're at 5 with Dryad. Because then we got to count up all the rest of. I'm interested to see like if you Exodia this and have all of the additional lands per turn, how many lands is this capable of dropping per turn?
Oh God.
It's just a
Well,
interesting little math experiment.
let's see, up to four ancient green warden. You can play them out of your graveyard. It doesn't give you an extra one, but it does.
Oh, it doesn't. So yeah, we're up to 4.
Then Lotus Cobra. If you have Lotus Cobra out, good God.
It's another one
Um,
that's at least it's doubling all of it. So we're at 8 with Lotus Cobra, and then Conduit of Worlds is 9, 10.
yeah. The Excavator, Rampart Excavator. You can play lands from your graveyard.
That's not an additional one though.
Let's see, Vorniclex. I mean, these.
Vorinclex is no, but if it's another winner for Omen Path, because Omen Path, if you've as long as you've got those 5 still in there, or you haven't spent all of the 5, um, then that would be you'd be up to 12. So bare minimum, we're talking without casting any sort of ramp spells or anything like that. You can get up to generating 12 mana on one turn
Easily.
if you Exodia this, which is not easy. Um, but last landfall staple, Scoot Swarm, it, we don't even cast shame about it anymore. I feel like we did originally, but then like everybody just started using them, and now it's just like, all right, we gotta figure this out now.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Um, Going on to the rest of the creatures, and this is just
Oh,
gonna,
whoa, time out. We forgot Thalia. That can, or did you say Thalia?
you talking
I
about
can
the
play an
Gitrog?
yeah, I can play an additional land.
Oh yeah. So all right, so we're up to 14. 14 mana generation per turn is the maximum. Just kind of scanning to see if there's anything else. No, that's it. But if any of those lands happen to be a fucking, Riveteer's Overlook or Escape Tunnel, and you've got Head Shredder out, we're talking damn near close to 20 mana generated per turn.
Right, Jesus.
It's so dumb.
Oh, the
Um,
Get Rock monster too. That plays an additional land each turn, like the regular.
the regular one.
Yeah, the Get Rock.
Oh, yeah. All right. So beyond 20 is where I'll stop counting now. This is too much. Um, all right. So creatures continued. We're gonna talk about just high synergy for this deck. Aftermath Analyst, kind of a non-negotiable. Um, Enters, you mill 3 cards, pay 4 into it, sack the creature, get all of the lands that you've been, milling all game or just sacking from their own abilities or, you know, any of the other creatures that we're going to talk about that sack lands. Like it really good synergy there. Elish Norn, we're gonna double all of those ETBs. Um, my brain is breaking because I'm remembering Lotus Cobra and all the other stuff. Plus, this cuts the accelerator on basically everyone else. Everybody knows that this is a problem card.
Big problem. Mama is a problem.
She sure is. Old Man Willow, a heater from Lord of the Rings, dude. Slept on. Uncommon.
Very stepped on.
Power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands that you control. We already know we're going to have a shit ton. And then whenever it attacks, you can sacrifice another creature or a token. When you do, target creature and opponent control gets -2/-2. You can get rid of some chumps. You can get rid of some, powerful, low power and toughness cards on the attack. And then we're going to have plenty of creatures that we don't care about sacking. We're going to have a bunch of 0/1 plants. So I love this guy. Um, and then we're gonna start talking about other problem cards. The Gitrog monster. We don't care about sacking lands because we have a way to get them back immediately. This guy was really put in there. Yeah, he's a big beefy guy. He's an ass beater. He is also an attack discourager with that death touch. Um, and then also this deck does lack a little bit of card draw, so seemed like a pretty easy addition. Titania, Protector of Argoth. Um, so she brings a land from your graveyard back into the battlefield, and then whenever a land hits the graveyard from the battlefield, you're creating a 5/3 ass beater elemental. Um, Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Ramanap Excavator. I don't know that he is. Would you say he's probably a landfall staple at this point?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. With all the fetches and sack lands and everything. Yeah, I think for sure.
Yeah, I keep thinking I'm super special with Necrobloom, and I'm really not that special because lands go to the graveyard all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help it.
Um, ooh, dude, I loved this card from the second that I cracked it from a booster pack.
Which one?
Spawn of Turg, dude.
Eager to the number. Yes.
His power is equal to the number of land cards in your graveyard. So potential, he is a super strong card for just a 3 drop. If you draw him late game. But also, if your back's up against the wall and somebody's, really beating into you and your life total's getting low, guess what? You can pay 2, sacrifice a land, you gain 2 life. And you don't have to tap him to do that, so you can just do that over and over and over again. And then bring your life total back up. And then play Eerie Ultimatum next turn. Um, Super fun. I love Urgspawn Turg. I've actually thought about running him as my Golgari commander and kind of building a deck around that. But of course, because it's going to share so many similarities with this, I'm
Right.
not super, um, not super enthusiastic about doing it. But I do love this card. I think it's funny, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, it's a cool synergy.
Risk the Redeemed. I don't even know how I came upon this card. I think this was in my bulk from my childhood. Um, I'm not even sure.
This is one of my favorite cards in this deck, and I didn't know you had it in the deck.
Dude, heater.
Um, Copying the tokens is sick.
Yeah. Um, absolute heater, and it's only 6 mana to do that. Um, very, very easy to achieve.
Very easy.
And another problem card, Vorinclex. Um, I don't cast this a whole lot in this deck. Not because I don't want to, but because I rarely draw it. But you're gonna get 2 forest cards. They don't hit the battlefield immediately, which is kind of lame. Um, but when you transform him, you mill 10 cards. You put up to 2 creature cards from among those milled cards onto the battlefield, potentially getting some heaters. Going with the heart of the cards on that one. His second step is distribute 7+1/+1 counters on any number of target creatures you control. So I love that it says you can distribute 7+1/+1 counters among any number. So you can kind of divide it up how you see fit. Not a lot of stuff does that. Um, and then until end of turn, creatures you control gain 1. This creature fights another target creature you don't control, and then it transforms back into Vorinclex. Um,
Ooh, and you can do it again.
and
Sick.
then you just do it again. Or you just leave him as a 6/6 trample reach. Like that's
Yeah,
that's a
still
heater
good.
for a 5 drop. So yeah, Vorinclex, he's there. He is in there. Um, then we going to Pingtown again, dude. This was probably what got me into the Valgavoth precon was the next few cards. So, Corpse Knight. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So every time we create one of those plants, zombies or angels, or just cast a creature, um, everybody's getting pinged. Everybody can get it. Then we've got Mirkwood Bats. Um, Not as good as Corpse Knight because it's only going to be happening whenever we create one of those tokens off of Necrobloom, but it still pings everybody for 1. And then White of the Reliquary. Um, this one gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard, and then you can sacrifice another creature. You can tap it to sacrifice another creature, search your library for a land card, and then put it on the battlefield tapped. So we can sack those stupid fucking plant tokens, go get a land, get that stupid fucking plant token back. Or that kind of helps beef us up to getting up to those 7 differently named lands. So if you have like 3 forests and then you've only got 5 other differently named lands, you can sack one of those forests, go get a waste, and now you're at 7.
Yeah.
Done deal. Or I'm sorry, not sacrifice a forest, sacrifice a plant, go get a waste, and then you're fixed. Really good land fixer. Also don't know where I got this card from, but Ozurtok Deepest Foundation. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, 3 times that many of tokens are created instead. And then what's the transform? I never even get here. So it turns into a land. You can tap it for a plains, pay 3, tap it, and then you transform. you you just turn it back into Ozurtok. And but you can only do that if you attack with 3 or more creatures. So um,
Easily done in this deck.
attack with 3/0/1 plant tokens that you don't care about, and transform that land back into something way more useful. And then next turn, as soon as you get a land drop, you get those 3 plants back. Or if you've got Omen Path out,
Oh God.
you get it back at the end of the turn. It's a net 0 loss.
Seriously.
Then we've got Thali and the Gitrog monster. Pretty much the same kind of thing. Oh, we got an additional land. I don't know if we counted that one earlier, but
Yeah, we did.
okay. It's got First Strike and Death Touch. Play an additional land on each of your turns. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. That sucks. Um, but it's super fun to watch. Um, and then whenever it attacks, sacrifice a creature or a land, and then draw a card. So it gives you your card draw. Um, we've got tons of stuff that we can sack that we don't care about, as we said before, with plants and all of our lands. So easy card draw. Easy add. And then the last card to talk about is just old World Shaper. So this is another heater in this deck because you can kill this thing, right? You can target remove. I don't think I actually have any uh destroy target creatures in this deck right now. But if you have Death Sprout, you could smack World Shaper with Death Sprout, get all the lands back from your graveyard, and then go search your library for a land again. That's so many landfall triggers.
Yeah, you can sack them to the Thalia. Um,
Oh
for
yeah.
last trigger.
Yep.
Looking the other triggers. I thought there was one more that you had a sack outlet. I do. I saw that it was a tap ability sack it.
Um. Oh, White of the Reliquary.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so that's Death Sprout on a stick right there.
There you go.
Um,
You ain't never losing no lands out of the graveyard.
nah, dude. Um, so yeah, this was my take on Necrobloom. Did you before we kind of wrap things up, any creatures that come to mind that you would kind of try to find your way in here?
Reachers. I personally like my favorite landfall. I made this was when I first got back into Magic after taking a couple years off. My first deck I made was I'm gonna murder this name. It's Moja, Maja, something protector. I can't remember the actual name, but it is a green white creature, and then it has a landfall trigger. Whenever you play a land, you get a 1/1 token. So if you're playing a bunch of lands in this deck, you're getting a bunch of landfall triggers. You're getting a bunch of 1/1s,
Mhm.
and it has an anthem effect of all your creatures get +1/+1. So pretty sick.
Was that the commander?
Yep, that was my commander. It's an uncommon, I believe.
And was the color identity on it?
It's green white Selesnya.
Might be a good addition. Might have to figure out what that card is actually called or how to
And then
pronounce it.
the I'm pretty sure it's Moja,
If it's if if
Maja.
if it's Maja, that to me sounds like Maha. I'm always going for the
Maha.
the the soft J's, but I
I
could be
know.
wrong. Could be
I'm
Maja.
pretty sure I heard it said that way. I don't know, but I think that's a cool ad. If you are, which now after talking to you, I don't think you are interested in taking out one of the heater cards. If you were to take out Armageddon or Ravages of War, which I'm pretty sure you would take out Armageddon over Ravages of War because
Just because
the
the
art.
art, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the art.
Another banger game ender card since you were this is kind of a go wide strat.
Hmm.
None of us have gotten this card. It is kind of expensive. I think it's like 17 bucks. But Moonshaker Cavalry.
What
It
does that
is
do?
it is the white greater hoof behemoth. Instead of giving everything trample, it gives everything flying and +1/+1 equal to the number of creatures you control.
Mm.
So just a game ender, make all your
Yeah,
creatures big as shit,
I'd
let
take
them
out
fly.
Armageddon for that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It may not be as frowned upon as Armageddon, so um,
Whatever, dude,
yeah.
fight me. Like that's what I like. If I'm playing, and like there's a select few people that if I'm playing them and they wanna cry about Ravages of War, I've got a Rolodex of debauchery.
There you go, there
That
you
it's
go.
like, dude, you did this.
Right, right.
But you did just remind me there's one very important card, and it is a game ender that it's this is the only, to my knowledge, granted I have so many decks at this point and I forget
Right.
what I put in stuff, but this is my only intentional like I win card that I've put in a deck, and it is Gruesome Fate.
Gruesome Fate.
Each
So
opponent loses one life for each creature you control. So if you successfully go wide, you do just press the I win button.
I mean, you can't argue with that for 3 mana. I mean, there's not much you can say to that.
No. Um, it can be countered, of course. I play
Nope.
this in arena constantly, and people get very upset.
Just Armageddon first, and then you'll have 3 lands before they do, and then Gruesome Fate. Peace.
Dude, we justified it again.
We got there.
Well, yeah. So, Josh, thank you for joining me to talk about this deck.
Anytime.
And yeah, if anybody wants to talk shit to me about Ravages of War and Armageddon, do so in the comment section.
Bring it.
Um, subscribe, like all the shit, and hopefully bringing you some more deck techs here pretty soon.
And show some love for Ravages of War.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody. This has been Bard's Bag.